So, what if I told you that for an entire generation, something as simple as a trip to the gas station has become this major source of anxiety? It sounds a little weird, right? But it's actually this fascinating story about a clash between generations and technology. And that's exactly what we're going to break down in this explainer. All right, let's jump in. You've probably heard this kind of thing before. This quote from Sky News Australia really captures that common stereotype. The idea that younger generations are great at talking about their feelings, but maybe struggle with some basic practical life skills. It's an easy story to tell, and honestly, it's a little dismissive. But what if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if this isn't about a generation being hopeless at all? What if this anxiety that young drivers are feeling is actually a sign of a much bigger problem, a huge failure in user experience design that's been hiding in plain sight for decades? To really get what's going on, we have to look at the data, because this isn't just some vague feeling people have. It's a real, measurable thing. And the scale of this problem is kind of staggering. Check this out. A survey in the UK found that a whopping 62% of young drivers, we're talking 18 to 24-year-olds, said they have something called refuel anxiety. That's not a small number. That's almost 2/3 of the next generation of drivers. And this isn't just a UK thing either. Research over in Germany found a very similar story, with 40% of young drivers there admitting they feel embarrassed or anxious when they're at the pump. So what we're seeing here is a real pattern, something happening across different countries. It's a shared experience. And this anxiety has some pretty wild real-world consequences. I mean, it's not just a small worry. The data from that UK survey showed that a quarter of these anxious drivers have literally let their car run completely out of fuel, getting stranded, just to put off having to go to the gas station. That's a huge red flag that something is seriously broken with the whole experience. So this whole thing has gotten so serious that researchers and industry experts have started to really dig in. They've even given it an official name and started to decode what's actually causing it. They're calling it the PISA Effect. That stands for Petrol Insecurity Station Anxiety. And the core idea here is pretty simple. Today's gas station is basically an old-school analog system. For a generation of digital natives who grew up with super intuitive, seamless apps on their phones, this clunky, real-world process just feels totally foreign and intimidating. So let's break down what's actually causing all this stress. Well, there's that classic fear of putting the wrong kind of fuel in the car, right? Then you've got the confusing payment machines with all their buttons and weird instructions. But a huge piece of the puzzle is social pressure, that feeling like everyone's watching you, judging you, with a line of cars waiting right behind you if you mess up. And yeah, of course, many just have less hands-on practice than older generations did. And if you look at the raw data from that German study, it's pretty eye-opening. When they asked what specifically made people feel embarrassed, the number one answer from over 23% of them was simply having problems using the pump itself. It's not about driving, it's not about paying. The biggest single source of stress is the basic design of the machine. Okay, so you might be thinking, all right, it's stressful for some people, but so what? Well, for the fuel companies, ignoring this PISA effect is actually a massive business risk. The risks really fall into three big buckets. First, and this is the big one, is the risk to something called customer lifetime value, or CLV. Then you've got just plain operational inefficiency when transactions take longer. And finally, it's a huge missed opportunity to connect with these customers in a modern digital way. Let's just focus on that first point for a second. Think about it. If your first few experiences at a gas station are super stressful, you're probably going to avoid that brand for life. You'll go out of your way to find a competitor that makes it easier. Or even worse for the industry, this kind of friction could be one more reason to just put off buying a car altogether. We're not just talking about one lost fail. We're talking about losing a customer for decades. But here's the good news. This is a totally solvable problem. The research doesn't just point out what's wrong, it gives a really clear roadmap for how to fix it. The whole solution really comes down to three main ideas, or pillars. First, embracing digital tech to meet young customers where they already are, on their phones. Second, a major simplification of the actual physical experience at the pump. And third, being proactive with education to build people's confidence before they even show up. So let's look at digitalization. This means rolling out really intuitive mobile apps that let you handle everything right from your car. I mean, imagine an app that doesn't just let you pay, but it also shows you a picture to confirm you've picked the right fuel for your car. And it clearly explains any of those weird pre-authorization holds on your card, so that whole source of confusion just disappears. The second pillar is all about simplification. On the left, you see the reality today, a total mess of buttons, tiny text, confusing fuel names. But on the right, that's the future, a clean, modern interface with one big, obvious start button, clear color coding, and simple graphics. The goal is to make it as easy and intuitive as using an ATM. And that final pillar is education. Instead of just waiting for new drivers to figure it all out under pressure, brands can get ahead of it. We're talking about short, TikTok-style videos on how to use the pump, simple explainers that bust myths about misfueling, and even guides on how to find the fuel cap release on different cars. And that education can even happen right there at the station. Picture this. You pull up, you're feeling a little unsure, and you see a simple QR code on the pump. You just scan it with your phone, a 30-second video pops up walking you through the exact steps for that specific pump, and bam! You can fuel up with total confidence. It's such a simple, elegant solution. So when you get right down to it, the story of Gen Z's refueling anxiety isn't really about them being hopeless. It's a really powerful case study in how systems and designs that the rest of us just take for granted can become totally obsolete and intimidating to new users. And it leaves us with a really interesting question to chew on. What other parts of our daily lives are just crying out for a user-friendly redesign? And what are we losing by not fixing them?